back to our channel. We're thrilled to bring you the most detailed information about the dramatic events unfolding in Genoa, where business ambitions and romantic relationships clash spectacularly. Sally's betrayal could push Billy into a dead end. Unable to bear Billy's obsession any longer, Billy decides to confront him. She presents an ultimatum. Either he abandons his pointless fight with the Chancellor and focuses on their soon-to-be-born family, or she will leave him and take their unborn child. The pressure from love and the unborn child forces Billy to make a difficult choice. Let's take a look at the breathtaking events unfolding in The Young and the Restless. What's exciting on day 3? The suffocating atmosphere in Genoa City is reaching a critical breaking point as the relentless corporate warfare surrounding Chancellor Industries begins to inflict devastating collateral damage on the personal lives of those caught in the crossfire. At the epicenter of this emotional hurricane is Sally Spectra, a woman who is currently carrying the heavy, traumatizing shadows of her past alongside the fragile hope of her future. Pregnant with Billy Abbott's child, Sally is living in a state of perpetual anxiety, terrified that the tragic history she endured with Adam Newman and the heartbreaking loss of baby Ava is somehow destined to repeat itself in a different, yet equally destructive manifestation. The toxic environment that Billy is actively cultivating with his aggressive, scorched earth campaign to conquer Chancellor Industries is slowly draining the life and joy out of their relationship, leaving Sally feeling profoundly isolated and desperately afraid for the safety of her unborn child. Billy Abbott is operating like a man possessed, driven by an insatiable, blinding need to validate his existence and claim what he perceives as his absolute birthright at the helm of Chancellor Industries. He has convinced himself that this hostile corporate takeover is a righteous crusade to honor the legacy of John Abbott, completely oblivious to the fact that his actions are merely feeding his own fragile ego and deep-seated insecurities. His relentless pursuit of power has rendered him entirely blind to the emotional destruction he is causing within his own home. Every waking moment of Billy's life is currently consumed by legal loopholes, corporate espionage, and vindictive plotting against those he once called family, leaving absolutely no room for the woman who is supposed to be his partner in life. Sally has reached a point of absolute physical and emotional exhaustion, drained of all her energy by the agonizing experience of watching the man she loves willingly descend into a vortex of corporate madness. She has spent weeks silently observing his erratic behavior, his sudden outbursts of rage, and his chaotic maneuvers, hoping that his feverish obsession would eventually burn itself out. However, as Billy's thirst for revenge against Lily Winters and Kane Ashby only intensifies, Sally realizes with chilling clarity that love alone possesses no power to save a man who is so thoroughly intoxicated by his own hubris. The constant, vibrating tension in their home has become a palpable threat to her pregnancy, forcing her to acknowledge that standing by as a silent, supportive witness to his self-destruction is a luxury she can no longer afford. Driven by a fierce, primal maternal instinct, Sally finally corners Billy in a moment of vulnerability, stripping away all the corporate noise and boardroom bravado to deliver a devastating, tearful ultimatum. In a confrontation heavy with unspoken grief and desperate resolve, she forces him to look directly at her and acknowledge the life growing inside her. Without a shred of hesitation, she lays out a stark, uncompromising choice. He must immediately abandon his meaningless, chaotic war for Chancellor Industries and dedicate himself entirely to the family they are trying to build, or she will walk out the door forever, taking their unborn child far away from the toxic fallout of his ambitions. The weight of her declaration hangs in the air, a profound testament to a mother's willingness to sacrifice her own heart to ensure the safety of her baby. The ultimatum strikes Billy with the force of a physical blow, temporarily shattering the impenetrable armor of his corporate arrogance. For a fleeting moment, the terrifying reality of losing Sally and his future child eclipses his obsessive desire for power, leaving him paralyzed in a state of agonizing internal conflict. He is violently torn between the profound love he holds for the woman standing before him and the intoxicating, deeply ingrained need for vindication that has defined his entire adult life. The silence that stretches between them is suffocating, filled with the unspoken realization that whatever choice he makes in this critical juncture will irrevocably alter the trajectory of their lives forever. Despite the profound impact of her words, Sally's finely tuned intuition allows her to read the lingering hesitation in Billy's eyes, leading her to a terrifying realization. She understands that while the ultimatum has shaken him, the addiction to chaos and the desperate need to prove himself might still overpower his love for their family. Her maternal instincts kick into overdrive, demanding that she take immediate, proactive measures to secure her child's future, rather than passively waiting for Billy to make the right decision. Recognizing that she cannot rely solely on his fragile promises, Sally makes the agonizing choice to orchestrate a controlled demolition of his plans before his unchecked ambition brings total ruin upon them all. In a strategic pivot that defies all conventional loyalties, Sally makes the unthinkable decision to cross the battlefield and seek out the very people Billy is actively trying to destroy. Setting aside her own pride, her past grievances, and her inherent loyalty to her partner, she realizes that the only way to neutralize the threat Billy poses to himself and their family is to dismantle his war machine from the inside out. She knows that stepping into the enemy camp is an act of profound betrayal, but in her desperate mind, it is the only viable path to saving the man she loves from his own worst impulses and shielding her baby from a lifetime of instability. The clandestine meeting between Sally, Kane Ashby, and Lily Winters is shrouded in a heavy, palpable tension, taking place in a discreet location far removed from the prying eyes of the Genoa City corporate elite. As Sally enters their domain, she is met with Lily's icy, defensive posture, a woman fiercely determined to protect her family's legacy from Billy's hostile incursions. Beside her stands Kane, radiating a simmering, vengeful resentment fueled by his brother's recent betrayals and arrogant declarations. The atmosphere is thick with suspicion and hostility as the two Chancellor executives eye the partner of their greatest adversary, entirely uncertain of her true motives and bracing for yet another manipulative tactic from the Abbott camp. Refusing to be intimidated by the hostility radiating from Kane and Lily, Sally lays her cards on the table with a raw, unflinching honesty that catches them entirely off guard. She explicitly clarifies that she is not there as a corporate spy or a saboteur acting on Billy's behalf, but rather as a terrified, desperate mother trying to stop a runaway train before it derails and destroys everything in its path. She paints a vivid, chilling picture of Billy's unchecked ambition, emphasizing that his relentless crusade will not only result in his own total destruction, but will inevitably leave Chancellor Industries in smoldering ruins, inflicting catastrophic financial and emotional damage on everyone involved in the crossfire. Lily, ever the analytical and fiercely protective corporate leader, slowly begins to process the profound implications of Sally's desperate plea. Despite her initial shock and deeply ingrained suspicion, Lily recognizes the unvarnished truth in Sally's tear-filled eyes and hears the genuine terror in her voice. Driven by her own desperate need to shield the Winters family legacy from Billy's destructive rampage, Lily begins to see the immense strategic value of having an inside ally. She realizes that Sally's intimate knowledge of Billy's emotional state and his upcoming tactical maneuvers could be the exact weapon they need to dismantle his hostile takeover from within, minimizing the collateral damage to the company. Kane, heavily influenced by his fierce, unwavering need to protect Lily, and deeply scarred by the profound sense of betrayal he recently experienced at Billy's hands, reluctantly begins to see the tactical advantage of this unholy alliance. His lingering resentment toward his brother's arrogant dismissal of his attempts to help him has hardened into a cold, calculating desire to neutralize the threat permanently. Listening to Sally's impassioned arguments, Kane realizes that their goals, while stemming from entirely different motivations, are perfectly aligned. He cautiously agrees to work alongside the woman who shares his brother's bed, recognizing that this bizarre partnership might be the only way to force a compromise or completely disarm Billy's corporate warhead. In that dimly lit room, a fragile, highly volatile pact is forged between three unlikely allies, bound together not by mutual trust or affection, but by a shared, desperate need to stop a mutual disaster. They meticulously begin to craft a shadow strategy, outlining careful parameters and establishing secure lines of communication to ensure their collaboration remains entirely hidden from Billy's paranoid gaze. Their collective objective is singular and clear: to systematically dismantle Billy's leverage, anticipate his aggressive corporate strikes, and maneuver him into a corner where he is forced to surrender his ambitions without triggering a catastrophic, highly public fallout that would ruin them all. The psychological aftermath of forging this secret alliance settles heavily upon Sally's shoulders as she navigates the agonizing reality of her dual existence. Returning home to the man she loves, she is forced to mask her terror and maintain a facade of supportive domesticity, all while silently carrying the crushing knowledge that she is actively conspiring with his greatest enemies to orchestrate his absolute downfall. The guilt of this profound betrayal gnaws at her conscience, a constant, agonizing reminder of the line she has crossed. Yet, whenever she feels the flutter of life within her, her resolve hardens into unbreakable steel, reaffirming her commitment to protect her child at any moral cost. As the corporate war for Chancellor Industries hurtles toward its devastating climax, Billy Abbott continues his aggressive, arrogant march toward the throne, completely blinded by his own hubris and his insatiable thirst for victory. He remains dangerously oblivious to the fact that the very foundation of his master plan is being systematically eroded from within, and that the architect of his impending, catastrophic downfall is the very woman waiting for him at home. The stage is perfectly set for a monumental collision of ambition, betrayal, and desperate love, leaving the citizens of Genoa City holding their breath as the invisible trap snaps shut, sparking the terrifying question of what will remain of Billy Abbott when he discovers the ultimate betrayal by the mother of his child.